Joining us now on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line from Canton, Ohio, where the Pro Football Hall of Fame game is tomorrow night on NBC. And the Hall of Fame ceremony, you can catch it on NFL Network at noon Eastern time. I'll be sitting there on the set hosting it in Canton, Ohio on Saturday. Joining us on that Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line, Pro Football Talk, and our friend Mike Florio back here on the show. How you doing, Mike?
Rich, my deepest apologies. I have been a loyal Sprint customer since 2006 when they became the first primary sponsor of PFT, and I have been too loyal because they are now no longer Sprint, and I need to put a new SIM card in my cell phone for it to work. So I can't take or receive phone calls, so I had to go old school.
Wow.
Hotel. I'm surprised they still have phones in hotel rooms.
I'm glad they do.
And they work, although this looks like the original phone that was installed when they built this hotel, whenever that may have been. Anyway, first world problems.
No, it's all good, man.
Cell phone that does not take or receive phone calls.
Sprint is now called Marathon. Who knew? Okay, very good. Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. Well, all right. It's time for a victory lap, Michael. Congratulations on a story that you've been telling us about for months. And Roger Goodell, I guess. Have you ever had the commissioner confirm one of your stories, Mike? Has that ever happened before?
No, this is a first. No, this is absolutely a first. Although everybody, I thought, knew about it. I don't know why the major networks were staying away from it. But Sims and I were Chris Sims, who co-hosts PFT Live with me 4 days a week, he and I were both hearing things throughout the month of February. And I got to a point on a Friday night late in the month where he and I were texting. It's like, I want to really try to position this for something we can use on the show Monday morning. And I actually did responsible reporting, seeking out the teams for comment and, that kind of thing. And it's like, we got something here. We got something here. And then as time went by, because we were very careful how we couched it at first, that just basically the Dolphins were interested in trying to get Payton and Brady. As time went by, it became clear to me that it was a done deal, that Brady, who retired on Tuesday, February 1, the following week was going to be named a minority owner of the Dolphins. At some point after that, Sean Payton was going to be named the head coach of the Dolphins. At some point after that, in the spring, Tom Brady was going to become the quarterback of the Dolphins. It was all set up. It was all going to happen. And before they could flick the first domino, on the same day Tom Brady retired, Brian Flores files his lawsuit and blows it all up.
But the question I have on all that is if, I guess not if, I mean, the commissioner in the league says this happened. When they reached out to Brady in 2019 and then again in 2021 to talk about all of this or try and lay the groundwork for it, and when they called Sean Payton's agent, Don Yee, who is also, associated with Brady, to start this conversation, how did they think it would be received with them just saying, look who the new quarterback and part owner of the Dolphins is, look who the new coach is? Wouldn't the Saints and Bucks say, hold on a second? Like, at what point did the brazenness have a cover story in their minds, Mike?
Well, because and this may be the reason why, Rich, people have asked me, why didn't the Patriots, the Saints, or the Buccaneers get any compensation as part of this tampering violation? Because in the past, in some instances, the victims get something. They get flip-flop of draft pick order, whatever the case may be, they get something. I think in this case, and I know, for this to have all been set up and be done, at the highest levels of these organizations, Dolphins and Saints, there was a deal for Payton. Highest levels of the Dolphins and Bucks, there was a deal for Brady. It's just a matter of it playing out. So, yes, it was brazen. Yes, it was blatant. But they also had everything set up and ready to go. Just like when Sean Payton was going to be coach of the Cowboys in early 2019. It was all set up and ready to go. And just before they started the process, it blew up. You start the process by the Cowboys creating a vacancy. Now, the Dolphins already had a head coaching vacancy, and Payton had already resigned from the Saints. And I wonder, Rich, would either of those things have happened if they'd known they weren't going to get Payton? Would Payton have stayed with the Saints for another year if he didn't think he was going to land in Miami? And would the Dolphins have kept Flores if they knew that they weren't going to get Sean Payton?
Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. The thing that I'm kind of surprised about, and I use the word surprised, I do, is that Brady's receiving blowback in certain parts for this. I mean, what's he supposed to do? Say, call the NFL police that he's being reached out to, that he's being tampered with? Certainly when, obviously, if you remember in 2019, it was the summer where Brady was essentially told the contract that he was looking for or the money he was looking for that would keep him in New England wasn't coming. What's he supposed to do? Hang the phone up and not listen? I mean, I don't understand that. Right?
Well, and it's a great point. And look, he's completely beyond the bubble of any potential discipline here because it would be a union issue and there's no policy in place for being the one who is tampered with.
Right.
And there's no rule that says you can't be somebody that a team impermissibly talks to. But I think from a PR standpoint, and look at the timeline, and look at like in as late as early December, or what was it? It was, I can't remember how they worded it, but it would happen in December of 2021 while they're making the push toward the end of the regular season. And he's with the Bucks, and he's supposedly all in with the Bucks, and he's talking to the Dolphins. Then that's the kind of thing that Buccaneers fans should probably say, well, what the hell? I mean, are you focused on trying to win with us? What are you doing here? Why are you trying to set up your next gig while we're trying to finish this year with another Super Bowl win? And to be talking to the Dolphins in 2019 and 2020 while he's still doing business with the Patriots, I just think it's a bad look. Sims made the point today, how will he be received in the locker room? Will he get the side eye from any of his teammates? And I think because he's Tom Brady, he won't.
Right.
But I think it is fair to say, how all in are you with your current effort to try to cap the season with a Super Bowl win if you're allowing yourself to be distracted by who you're going to be playing for next year?
I don't know if he's distracted though, Mike. I'll bite on that. I think he can compartmentalize and win and want to win because he just winning is everything. That he can still focus on the task at hand while his agent is handling what could come next. Certainly, if it's ownership, right? I mean, does that? I mean, I don't know. Now you got to do the math. The money that Fox is going to pay him to broadcast, is that more than what he could make as an owner of a team? You'd have to feel that's the case. I'm wondering, like, what does he really want to do with his career?
Well, it depends on how big the percentage is,
right?
Frankly, and also, he was coming to Miami to ultimately play, not just to be
how about that?
A minority owner. And here's the other side of it too. Let's not be naive. This isn't the only time this happens. This happens all the time.
I was going to ask that.
With all sorts of players.
Yeah.
You think Russell Wilson and his agent Mark Rodgers had no conversations with the Broncos during the 2021 season? Do you think that didn't happen? Right? I mean, it's and I think that's one of the reasons why the punishment of the Dolphins wasn't as much as it should have been. When you look at the words of the commissioner, the severity and scope, unprecedented, owner directly involved. I've never encountered that in all my years of the NFL. Well, why is it just what it is then? Why isn't it more? Because it happens all the time. It happens casually. It happens nonchalantly. The Bucks did it with Brady, Bruce Arians, at a press conference, talking to reporters at the Combine in 2020. While Brady is still under contract with the Patriots, Arians says they're interested in Brady. Textbook blatant violation of the tampering rules, but the NFL doesn't care. The NFL ignores 99.999% of the tampering violations, and then every once in a while, we're going to enforce the rule. And going forward, are people going to be scared straight by this? Probably not, because I think people understand, in this case, I don't think they believe they could punish Stephen Ross for tanking because of the implications of doing so. So we had to get him for something. So we'll get him for this.
Well, I mean, I guess tampering will be hammered down on if it's put in a lawsuit that you did it. I guess that you can't ignore it if that is what you're saying, that the league, it was put right there in Brian Flores' lawsuit. What happens with Flores' lawsuit right now that we know that part of it, what he alleged on a boat, even without naming Tom Brady, flat out happened? So what happens now with that lawsuit, Mike Florio? What do you think?
That lawsuit continues to be bogged down, Rich, on the preliminary question of whether or not it's going to play out in court or whether it's going to be diverted to the NFL's in-house arbitration system, where the commissioner makes the final decision and it all happens in secrecy. And obviously the scales of justice that are supposed to be perfectly even are tilted in favor of the NFL because the commissioner is the one who's making the decision. And as of right now, there's a pending effort by Flores' lawyers to be able to take discovery, get information, question the commissioner about his true bias, how much money he's making, how the NFL owners have viewed him, that kind of thing, so they can then argue he can't be impartial in any way, shape, or form in controversies involving the teams that have hired him to be the commissioner. It's amazing to me because this issue has been hiding in plain sight for as long as I've been covering the NFL. The commissioner serving as arbitrator for certain claims made against teams. Of course the commissioner can't be fair. The commissioner has, as one party, the people who employ him, and as the other party, people who don't. It's an inherent bias that no one should be expected to even try to shake. So I think it's going to be caught up in that issue for months to come, and it's going to take months/years for this case to ever get resolved.
Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before I let you go on with your Canton day, sir, what's happening with the league's decision to appeal Sue Robinson's 6-game suspension for Watson or leave it the way it is?
Rich, I expect an appeal to be filed before the deadline. Whenever the specific deadline is, I think they're going to file it. And I think what they're going to do, because Judge Robinson made findings of fact, and those are the only things that she does that are binding on the commissioner. Those findings of fact are he did it. And that gives the commissioner everything he could want or need to say, I appreciate your decision to suspend him 6 games. I disagree with it. I'm going to suspend him for the whole season, or whatever he chooses to do. I think she's given him the blueprint, the roadmap, and the green light to do whatever he wants to do on appeal. I expect the appeal to happen, and I expect the suspension to be increased, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a full season because that's what they asked for. That's what the people who work for Roger Goodell went into the hearing before Judge Robinson and requested. Why would they change their minds a month later? People need to get ready for this because at a minimum, it's going up. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a full season.
And if it is, the Players Association's next move would be to do what?
File a lawsuit in federal court. Then it becomes a race to the courthouse. And we've seen this before. Ezekiel Elliott filed his lawsuit a little bit too early and initially won in Texas, but then lost because he filed it too early. See, the NFL's got a great system set up here because they won the Tom Brady case. They won the Ezekiel Elliott case. All the NFL has to do is file its own lawsuit in federal court in New York City before Deshaun Watson would file his lawsuit wherever, in Ohio or wherever he would file it. And when you know when the decision is going to become final from the commissioner, I mean, they control the starter's pistol in the race to the courthouse. So you send the kid down to the courthouse. He's ready to file the paperwork. You text him that the commissioner finalized his decision. Boom, you file the lawsuit. You win the race to the courthouse. You're in a favorable form. I won't bore anyone with the details as to why it's favorable, but it is. And then the NFL wins. And, Rich, at the end of the day, judges don't like to get involved when labor and management have come up with a procedure for resolving complaints like this. And the union agreed that the commissioner has final say. What can you do? What can you do? The union agreed to it. So even though he's not the guy who's judge and jury, he still is the appeals court, and the appeals court's always the most powerful of any of the people in the overall process.
But you can get a temporary restraining order to put Deshaun Watson on the field week 1, right? While this whole thing plays out. That is the rub there.
Because they're not fighting the 6-game suspension. I think this is a week 7 question. It's an excellent point, great instincts, and I've poked around on this.
I've been around.
I think if they would go to court, they've already conceded the first 6 games. This is week 7 at Baltimore.
Because that's what Brady did, didn't he? Didn't he do that, or who did that? Somebody.
Brady's facing 4 games from week 1.
Right.
Brady delayed it a whole year because he initially won in court, but he lost at the appeals level, and
right.
The precedent from that case is what gets used against Watson if the NFL wins the race to the courthouse. But because Judge Robinson already has found a 6-game suspension, and unless the NFLPA appeals that, and they've already said they won't, I don't think any of this becomes relevant until week 7.
What if Goodell?
Even if they fight in court.
What if Goodell just doubles it, goes to 12? Would the Players Association sue on that? Like what I'm saying is what increase of penalty would you think the Players Association accept? None?
I think the reporting from Charles Robinson a few weeks ago was if it's full season, they'll go to court. It's a great question, though. If it's 14, if it's 12, if it's 10, will they exercise their prerogative to go to court? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yes.
But I would assume there's a number short of 17 that would cause them to say, let's not reinforce the bad precedent that we already have in New York and in the appeals court that controls New York that makes it harder for us to win if and when we ever have to take these cases to court. Maybe they just step aside and take it. But you're right. There's a number between 6 and 17 where they quite possibly would say we just want this to be over, and we're not going to spend the time because at the end of the day they're probably going to lose anyway.
Mike Florio, greatly appreciate it. Hope to see you in Canton. I think housekeeping was trying to get in during this conversation. You go do that. It's called Do Not Disturb, man.
It wasn't an issue.
They don't have they got a phone from the Kennedy administration, but not a Do Not Disturb sign for you to hang on the door.
There's no Do Not Disturb sign either.
Oh my God!
I don't want to shame publicly.
No, don't. You're already in trouble with your phone carrier. Don't do that.
All right.
Thanks, Mike. I hope to see you shortly.
Not Sprint sponsorship anymore. They're dead.
Thanks, man. That's Mike Florio right here. I love talking to him, man.